Today I'm going to add a mounting plate to the controller for my X-MAXX so I can mount my cell phone to it. So I've done that to one controller already. This controller though is for a Stampede, that Stampede I do believe. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing to this TQI controller. We're gonna mount it right there. A few things you're gonna need to do this. Of course, you're going to need a Dremel. I guess you could do it with 10 snips or something, but it's so much easier with a Dremel. Cutting wheels, various bits and bobs to go with the Dremel. Obviously, you're going to need a cell phone mount, and that lug, a Sharpie, some cut-off wheels, also a hot glue gun of some sort. I'm going to get my work area ready, and we'll jump right into this. Alright, so the first step is going to be to mark on the controller exactly where we want our plug to be. The most important thing to me is that when this is mounted on here, the uprights are facing out, forward if you will. It just makes me feel like the controller is more securely holding on to my cell phone than opposed to mounting it this way where the phone could just drop right out. So that's the orientation I am going for. The plug itself is straightforward. We're going to mark where I want this plug to be. It's going to be something like this, that, and that. All right, so once you've got your marks on there with your Sharpie, you should end up with something like that. Alright, so the next step we're going to do involves the Dremel and a cut-off wheel. We are going to slice through the plastic, and I've done this several times, so I know that there is nothing under that plastic. The battery container is down in the bottom of these controllers, but there's enough clearance. As long as I don't cut deep, I will be perfectly fine. If you're doing this to one of your own controllers, I highly recommend that you find out in some way that you're not going to cut something, wires or whatever. Perhaps just take the controller completely apart before you do this step. We will be taking this controller apart. I just want to go ahead and make some of these cuts while it's bolted together. So you'll end up with something similar to this. When we take the controller completely apart, then we'll cut it all the way through. Now I'm going to take the controller apart so I can finish my cuts and get it sized just perfectly for that lug. So as you can see, all 5 screws are the same length. So the next step is actually pulling this thing completely apart. I like to remove the battery door, get it out of the way, and we're going to have to cut the serial number label here. All right, and we're ready to take it apart. All right, we're apart. One half has no guts in it whatsoever, and the other half contains all of the guts. As you can see with the battery compartment, the way it would have lined up here, there's no risk of cutting anything inside of this particular controller. Even if you were to cut too deep, you would just cut into the battery compartment. You'd have to cut super deep to actually do any serious damage. Your results may vary. Traxxas may redesign this controller, or if you're working on a different model, in some way or another, you want to know what you're cutting into. But with this one, we're good to cut before we open it up. All right, next step is to finish this cutout and get it sized just perfectly for the plug. We're going to hit it with the Dremel again to get the rest of the plug out on this half of the controller. All right, one half of it is cut out. We'll tidy it up as we get ready to hot glue it. Time to do the exact same thing to the second half. Just gotta straighten it up. I deburred this already. Now we need to see if our plug is gonna fit, and our plug fits. As a matter of fact, I may have cut it a little bit too big, but that's okay. The hot glue will make up for the difference. If the plug doesn't fit, then it's just a simple matter of using your Dremel to trim it here and there. I'm gonna get my hot glue gun, and we're gonna use that to glue this lug in place. Once you know that lug will fit into the notch you've created, you can actually go ahead and put the screws in, tighten all of that up. There's no need to have it apart at this point. So once again, there's a view of the hole that we've created. All right, once you know the notch is good, you can go ahead and put the screws back in the controller. And since you're putting these screws into plastic, you want to be careful that you don't strip them out. Maybe even use a hand driver and put it in that way. Our next step is to simply hot glue the lug in. And while the glue is still warm, you'll want to test fit the bracket to make sure the orientation of the plug is still going to work. I actually want this to be oriented off to the left a little bit, just about like that. The hot glue is finished cooling down. It's no longer hot glue. Simple as that. The hardest step in the whole process is using the Dremel. I hope this helped somebody. Thanks a lot. Bye.